This show is for women who train harder, think bigger, and live bolder. Here, we don't level up. We set the standard. Strength, strategy, success. I'm Katie Fleece. Welcome to The Smoke Show. Welcome back to The Smoke Show, the podcast where we don't just chase success. We embody it, baby. I'm your host, your hype woman, your no BS bestie, here to help you build a body and a life that turns heads and breaks patterns. I'm really excited about today's episode because we're gonna dive into some questions. And let me just say, y'all brought the heat. You brought some really great ones. Can't cover them all, but I did choose a handful. Otherwise, we would be here all day and nobody wants that, okay? So I wanna kick off with the first question. It also happens to be one of my favorite questions that came through because honestly, I think this question could have been written by every single high-achieving woman I know, all right? And it's this. How do you tie it all together? Fitness, nutrition, business, without drowning in overwhelm? That's a good one, all right? That one hits. So let's unpack it. Can we just acknowledge that whoever asked this is basically describing just being a human right now? Like, raise your hand if you've ever felt personally victimized by your to-do list. Me, okay? So here's what I have learned. The magic isn't necessarily about doing everything perfectly. Anybody listening to this, a perfectionist, right? But instead of doing everything perfectly, it's actually about creating systems that stack on top of each other, okay? So think of it like this. Instead of having like 3 separate buckets, like you've got fitness, you've got nutrition, you've got business, and you're constantly trying to juggle them, what if they could actually feed off of each other? You may have heard the term habit stacking before. So this is basically where you attach a new habit to something that you're already doing consistently, okay? Your brain loves patterns. So instead of forcing yourself to remember like 17 new things, you basically just piggyback off of behaviors that are already existing into your routine. So here are some examples of how you can make one activity into multiple things. The first one is something that I do every single morning, and it's basically morning movement. Like, this is where I get my steps in, okay? And this could also be a time for you to voice memo your ideas, check your email, respond to your emails, check your Slack message, make your to-do list for the day. That's a good one. Easy way to get in a lot of movement while also getting a lot of other things done. Okay. Think about like if you're driving to and from work or driving to and from before and after school activities, use that time. Think about what you could use that time for. Maybe that's when you plug in your favorite podcast. Maybe that's when you do a lot of your thinking and you send voice memos to yourself. If you're not one of those people that has to listen to music when you work out, like me, believe it or not, I think I know a lot of people think that's weird, but I don't actually ever listen to music when I work out. That is a time that I will, again, you can listen to podcasts. You could also like do any sort of call reviews that you have. That's when I get a lot of my ideas come to me, so I'll write them down. If one of your priorities or tasks that you need to do for your business is posting on social media, that's a good time to maybe respond to comments or DMs or whatever it may be, all right? So you're not adding more to your plate because maybe you're thinking like, how much more can I actually take? But you're actually just taking what's already on your plate and making it work harder for you. You do have to have clear priorities though. So ask yourself this: if I could only accomplish 3 things this week that would make me feel like I'm actually winning, that make me feel successful and accomplished, what would they be? and choose one thing from each area. So one thing from fitness, one thing from nutrition, one thing from business. That's it. Okay. You don't need a list of 50 things because that's when the overwhelm starts to happen. So create a list of 3 things that fit inside each of those buckets for each week. Okay. All right. Number 2, the second question is, what is the best way for your skin to keep up with your fat loss? And then she goes on to say, like, my goal is to lose 20 pounds. She's already down a couple pounds. Yay. Woohoo. But she says, like, hey, as I've gotten older, I've noticed that the more fat I lose, the more it looks like I've aged. It's like not sitting right, specifically in my face. So what would you suggest? Her message was longer than that. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of the question. And this is a real concern. I think I've actually talked about this on the podcast before, but I love that you brought it up. Okay, so our collagen production actually starts slowing down in our mid-20s, believe it or not. So it's not about, being old. Like, that's just how life goes, right? It's just a way of life. So you're already crushing it with the collagen powder, because I know that you mentioned in your question, like, hey, I'm taking a collagen powder. Keep doing that. That's going to be a great help. That is literally like giving your skin the building blocks it needs from the inside out. But here's what you can also stack on top of that collagen powder. Number 1 is hydration. Like, don't ever underestimate the power of drinking water. If you're not sure how much water to drink, I would recommend drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh, 200 pounds, then you're going to want to aim for about 100 ounces of water every single day. Strength training, which I know this particular listener is already doing, but creating that muscle is going to keep you looking youthful. Would definitely recommend strength training over cardio. I'm not saying cardio is bad for you. That's a whole nother episode, but prioritize strength training. Like, if you have to choose between one or the other, choose strength training. Vitamin C. So I would try to get this from foods first, and then supplement. One thing that I have actually not tried yet, but I hear it works wonders, and believe it or not, I actually bought what I need for it. I just haven't used it yet, but that is dry brushing. Hey, it's Katie Fleece, head of the female division of Superhuman and your host here on Smoke Show. Listen, if you've been waiting for a sign to go after your strongest, fittest, hottest body, this is it. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need anyone else's permission. It's time to claim the body and the life you deserve. Go to smokeshowbody.com and take the first step toward building the ultimate version of you. Now back to the show. So I know that this is kind of a trend. A lot of people are dry brushing these days. I bought one. I haven't used it. So I personally cannot speak from experience, but I have heard that really helps with the lymphatic system and all of that good stuff. So you might want to try it. And then lastly for that, I would recommend, from my expert opinion, to lose weight at a steady pace. Like, try not to lose it rapidly, okay? Because then that's gonna like shock your skin, all right? And it will most definitely affect the way that your skin looks. So depending on how much you have to lose, I would say anywhere between 0.5 and 1 pound a week. Again, it could be more or less depending on your body type and what your goals are, where you're starting from, all of that good stuff. All right, third question is, how do you keep everything straight? And then she goes on to say, I feel like I'm failing at one thing when I focus all in on the other thing. If I focus on myself more, then my work suffers. If I focus on work, I suffer the consequences, hence being in the position that I'm in. How do you balance family, personal, and work-life balance without feeling drained? Do you schedule it out? Because I'm finding myself having to wake up at 5 a.m. if I want to exercise, and then I'm exhausted halfway through the day. help. All right. So first of all, I don't believe in this perfectly equal balance. I don't think it's actually about giving equal energy to everything every day. That's nearly impossible, in my opinion. But instead, it's about just being intentional with the seasons of your life, all right? So some weeks, maybe work gets 70% of your focused energy. And maybe some weeks, your health gets 70% of your focused energy. Again, I don't know that it's necessarily like everything has to be 50-50 because that's just not real life, right? There are some weeks where work is crazy. And then there are some weeks where maybe it's not as busy and you can spend more days at the gym. The key here is choosing instead of reacting. All right. So every day, I want you to pick 3 things. Pick one thing from each category. Okay. Something that is for your future self, whether that's business or work or whatever, making you money. Okay. Something that is for yourself, health, joy, all of that good stuff. And then something that is for your relationships. Pick 3 things that you can achieve each day. Something very, very small. Very small. It doesn't have to be something crazy. Maybe for an example, for your health, maybe all you can do that day is make sure that you get in enough water or make sure that you get in enough steps. And at the end of the day, because of the day you had, that is a win. Okay. If you can't squeeze in your workout that day, no big deal. Just look at your schedule. And sometimes you gotta adjust. It's all about adjusting. Okay. It's not about being perfect. Now, as far as the 5 a.m. wake up call comment, I will say, honestly, if that's what it takes for you to get in your workout, then that's what it takes. I get it because I used to be the person that was like, absolutely not. I could never work out that early. I need a full cup of coffee. There's no way. But now I know that if I don't get up at 5 a.m. and get my workout in first thing, it's honestly probably just not gonna happen because my every day is different for me. And then you've got kids and after school, sports, all of that stuff. You throw all of that into the mix. And so for me personally, it's like I have to do it first thing in the morning. So again, just look at your day and think, okay, is 5 a.m. the only time that I can squeeze a workout in? If the answer is yes, well, then if your goals are important to you, you'll make that work. One thing that I would suggest is making sure, like adjusting your sleep, right? If you're going to bed at 11 p.m. or midnight, well, you might need to go to bed a little earlier so you're not feeling so exhausted if you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get that workout in. Now, if you're like, whoa, Katie, absolutely not. Like, I am not a morning person. I will say it's going to take a couple weeks to adjust to that. But if you can stick with it consistently for, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, then it's just going to become a habit. It's going to become routine. You're going to enjoy waking up at that hour. You're going to look forward to it. You're going to be excited about it. And I would even venture to say that mornings might actually become your favorite. But whatever you decide your schedule to be, just do it consistently. You don't have to do it perfectly, okay? Some days you're going to nail it. Some days you won't. And that's okay, all right? That's called being human. It's all about progress over perfection. All right, number 4. All right, this question's a good one. How do you know when a relationship is expanding you versus keeping you small? I know a lot of people feel this way. And the fact that you're even asking this question tells me that you're very self-aware. So that's very good, all right? That's a good thing. But here's the thing about relationships that are keeping you safe or keeping you small, like you said, okay? A lot of times they feel comfortable, but comfort can also not necessarily be a good thing, okay? So here are some signs that a relationship is keeping you small. Number 1, you find yourself editing your dreams, okay? Maybe they respond to your growth with fear or criticism. Conversations stay very surface level, okay? Because you don't want to sound like you're being too much. You know that it's making them uncomfortable. Another sign would be maybe you leave interactions and you notice that you feel really, really drained. So pay attention to how you feel after spending significant amount of time with somebody. Now, here are some signs that you know your relationship is actually really expansive. One would be they are interested in your goals. They want to hear about them. They ask you questions about your goals and how you plan to get there. They challenge you, but not in a way that's coming from judgment. They challenge you because they know that you're capable actually of a lot more. They celebrate your wins without making it about them. Like they are genuinely excited for you. You feel full permission to be yourself, okay? Even including the messy, like not so pretty parts. But sometimes the safest relationships are with people who are scared of change. And that's honestly not necessarily their fault because growth can be very threatening to people who just simply aren't ready for it. Okay, so here are some action steps that you can do if you're feeling like you're questioning the relationships in your life. Okay, number one would be to audit your circle. So I know I already mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again. After spending time with someone, ask yourself, like, do I feel bigger? Do I feel better? Or do I feel smaller? Do I feel drained? Like what's your energy giving? Okay. Also, communicate your growth. All right. Give people a chance to rise to meet you before you completely write them off. Set loving boundaries. I've done a whole entire episode on boundaries before, but you can love someone and also limit how much time and energy you're giving them. Okay. Find your people. Seek out the relationships that call you forward. Okay. You are allowed to find people that want to see you grow, and you're also allowed to outgrow people. You don't have to stick with them for a lifetime if they are simply not your people anymore. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to choose expansion over comfort. All right, smoke shows. So if you like this episode, share it with a friend, DM me your takeaways, post a screenshot, tag me. I always reshare those. I want to hear from you. See you next time. Stay strong, stay strategic, stay unapologetic. This is Smoke Show.